So to save us some time, we have already done A. Can you see that A would change your amplitude? So to graph A, I would make my amplitude 3, my maximum would be 3, my minimum -3. I'd have a normal period of 2 pi to draw those 4 sections and be able to graph y equals 3 sine x. In B, we're also going to skip B. I mean, if you want to, you can see these online. I have videos of A and B online already. But B has a B value of 3. That's going to affect our period. Our period would be 2 pi divided by 3. You would label that and divide it into 4 equal sections, and then be able to graph that one. What we are concerned about is looking at part C in what happens when we have a vertical translation. In this case, you would go 3 units up. And how does that help us with a shortcut? So again, hopefully this is getting memorized, but I'm going to start by drawing my regular sine graph with my axes family with an amplitude of 1. So a normal sine graph starts in the middle, going up to a maximum, back to the middle, down to a minimum, back to a middle. Here is our sine graph. And on this graph, something that you don't draw on your sine graph, because you don't need to, but will be helpful later on, and I'm going to add it with a dotted line. It's not an asymptote, but anytime we use a dotted line on a graph, it's actually not part of the graph. Asymptotes are not officially part of the graph. They're just there as aids to help us. So the aid that I'm going to help us, and the shortcut that's going to come up very nicely with your d value, is that y equals 0 is your spelling. That's your sinusoidal axis. Your sinusoidal axis is your average. Does it make sense, since it's at 0, that if you move your graph up and down, your middle line, your average, your sinusoidal axis is going to move as well. So if we go 3 up, and this will be the shortcut, the shortcut for your d values is that now, and I'll do it with the red line, that sinusoidal axis sorry, I have no other good memorization technique for this one unless you call it the sinusoidal axis. Maybe it helps you remember that your d value affects that. Oh. Oh. Just wait. Sneaky. Perfect. Yes, it said it moved 3 up, and then I drew it only going 2 up. I was so focused on making that D in blue so that you could see that. So your sinusoidal axis will be at 3. And this is going to help you with the technique, because if your sinusoidal axis is at 3, do you see your amplitude is 1? The amplitude is how much it moves from your middle to a maximum and middle to a minimum. So now, because my sinusoidal axis is at 3 and my amplitude is at 1, I would know my maximum's at 4, my minimum is at 2. This is the first time our maximum and minimums have changed. My b value is still 1, so my period is still 2 pi, and I still divide that into 4 equal sections. And because I'm graphing a sine graph starts in the middle going up. So my middle, this is why that dotted line is nice, because it shows you where your middle of your graph is. Sine graph starts in the middle, then goes up to a maximum at the next ticky mark, back to the middle, then down to the minimum, and then back to the middle. So middle, maximum, middle, minimum, middle. There's our sine graph shifted up 3 units. So we can use all of the shortcuts to graph it quickly without having to do, because sometimes writing all 5 of those points and the arrows like we did in the first game might be a little tedious for this one, especially because you need to see where all 5 of those points go. Yes, Seth?
The domain for the textbook, you said you can cross out just to do for your test, you say
Yeah.
period, right?
Yeah. So, and this one didn't say the domain.
Yeah.
So on this one, right, we got like everything. Oh no, it did here, right? For 0 to 2 pi. Or 1. At least 1 period. But no, so technically I would have lost a half a mark if this was an exam question. Because as much as I tell you, I always should reread the question at the end. Right? Sometimes I got lazy, I didn't want to reread it again. And I would have missed that, and then I would lose a half a mark for that domain. Nice.
Does that mean you're not going to answer a question where you do that? All your questions always need to at least 1 period?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're trying to trick us with that.
I'm not trying to trick you, but I will, I get a lot of the questions I get for your quizzes and for your tests are actually ones that I've stolen. Taken from old exam questions, so you get used to that, right? So if I pull an old exam question that had a domain restriction, right, then you would have to do that domain restriction, okay? Questions for this one are 6 and 7.